Frustrating to me is this idea of safety of employees. Of course, we all want to ensure the safety of employees. That is without a doubt. I did have a constituent who had reached out to me with some concerns around in-person early voting, absentee voting, and I am in a very good relationship with the police department, so I went to the police chief or perhaps even Commander Work, just talking about safety. So I was aware of some, I shouldn't say anecdotal because that was a very real situation, but I was not aware of the issues, perhaps to the depth that we're being told that they are currently being felt by city employees, because I do ask some city employees, and there are concerns like any public place, any bank, any retail store, any area where you have heightened tensions as a society, you are going to come across hostile and angry people. Perhaps we need to protect our staff, but what is so frustrating to me is that there has been at least one, possibly two budget cycles where we were not told that safety of employees was a concern of the administration, because if we had been told that, we probably would have found ways to budget money to make this building more secure. So that's why I'm getting frustrated with this defense of, well, it was for employee safety. If that was the case, then we should have known about it. A year ago, and then a few months ago, we were talking about $100,000 for rebranding. We could have put $100,000 to protect the safety of the employees in this building. So I'm not saying that our employees aren't feeling safe, but if the administration's way of protecting them is putting audio surveillance without notifying the public. I talk about these things to my children, and they have an alderman for a dad, so they get the soapbox and they watch meetings and they hear me rant and rave about certain things. But even my 11-year-old son, when we were talking about this, he said, "Daddy, how did people know to behave better if they didn't know they were being recorded?" I mean, it doesn't pass the logic of an 11-year-old. But yet we're holding on to that. If we would have noticed and had signs in City Hall, people would have been behaving because they knew that there'd be audio and video surveillance of their illegal act. I do have a question because Commander Warwick had mentioned judicial oversight, and this is the thing that I'm really struggling with the most in regards to the Fourth Amendment. When it comes to the audio and the video that's captured by these devices, Commander Warwick, as a police officer, could you initiate or use that unwarranted or unnoticed audio surveillance as justification to charge someone with a crime?
Well, there would have to be a crime for us to go looking for it, or an incident to investigate it.
Okay, so if somebody, and again, I don't know, that's why I'm asking. So you mentioned judicial oversight. So if someone commits a crime at City Hall, would that audio surveillance that up until a month ago was not noticed, would a judge allow that in the courtroom as evidence against the person who committed the act if they didn't know they were being audio recorded?
I can't speak for the judge. I don't know. I can tell you from a police officer's perspective that it is their duty to collect all exculpatory evidence for both sides of that disturbance. And when I say that, any evidence, including video, witness statements, a canvass of people in and around that area where the incident occurred, is all included in that. And then that is what's presented to the judge to determine whether that's allowed in the prosecution of that incident.
Would you, though, as a police officer, would you feel comfortable putting into the record or in the court case audio that was collected that was not noticed?
What do you mean
at City Hall? For example, if there was an incident at City Hall and there was a crime that was committed and you're trying to create a case against that person that committed the crime, if you are aware of audio recordings that the person who committed the crime was not aware of, would you feel comfortable bringing that to a court of law as evidence of that illegal act?
Yes, because I have a duty to provide all evidence of that incident to the court.
Okay, thank you. That answered the question, because that for me was a big part. Now, on the other end of that, judges could rule that evidence is not admissible if they feel that it was collected without a warrant.
Correct.
So, for example, if you're going to collect if you're going to create a case against someone, like drug trafficking, some sort of horrible crime, human trafficking, things of that nature, you would have to go to a judge to get a warrant to wiretap a phone line or to conduct some sort of surveillance or search warrant, would you not?
There's a lot to unpack there, but in a roundabout way, yes.
Okay, thank you. You mentioned judicial oversight. I just wanted to understand it from a police officer's perspective. It's a real shame, as our community, many of us who are in these seats, we do this because we love our community. We love all of our community. We love the liberals, we love the conservatives, we love the Republicans, we love the Democrats. Local government used to be about serving. Used to be about neighbors serving neighbors. Randy, you're shaking your head, but I gotta tell you, man, I love you, but you're one of the most partisan. You're calling out the partisanship on the far fringe of the other side, but you
Alder
yourself.
Burnett, just direct your comments to the chair.
Well, the point is that the most politically motivated people through political parties are the ones that are calling out the actions of the other fringe. And we got to get past that as a society, because we can't be at each other's throats all the time. We can't look at government service as the progressive agenda versus the conservative, and on and on. We can talk about policies and we can talk about how we're going to pick up garbage and make parks safer, but when these partisan political party agendas get thrust into local government, this is the result. It's literally neighbors at each other's throats about things that we should not be talking about. If we're real about even the incidences that happen at City Hall, as horrible and unjustified as they were, the actions of some members of the public who are doing horrible things and treating our staff very poorly, it all goes back to some of these election issues that we have been struggling with from the beginning. Randy, we have had issues with our elections.
Alder Burnett, just
We had
direct your comments to the chair.
Maude, do you have a question? Because you're shaking your head.
Alder Burnett, direct your comments to the chair.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, this all goes back to some of the issues that we have had, and we're trying to get past it. But just within the last couple, like election or two ago, there were observers that wanted to observe our election activity, and the clerk or the law department, whoever, kind of had them removed, and they had to go to court to get the city to have the court overturn the city's actions. That frustrates people, and that's justified. We have to get a hold of this stuff. We have to be realistic about some of the things that city government has done the last few years to create this level of mistrust. It's not excusing poor behavior, boorish behavior, violent, verbally abusive language. That should never be tolerated. But if it's truly safety, why didn't we have that discussion? Why didn't we talk about that and look at the better ways of securing our building than putting up audio devices without publicly noticing them? So, thank you.